Think about it for a second. Have you ever stopped to consider the one physical action you perform constantly, literally from the moment you're born to the moment you die, almost entirely on autopilot? Right, it's breathing. But what if this automatic background process of your body is actually a hidden control panel? What if you could manually override it to heal illnesses, extend your lifespan, or even perform seemingly miraculous feats? It really begs the question, does your breath determine your age and destiny? Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're diving into a truly mind-bending ancient text focused entirely on what's called Swara Yoga. In this system, swara simply refers to the flow of breath through your nostrils. The whole premise here is that by consciously observing and manipulating this breath, a practitioner, a swara yogi, can supposedly control everything from their baseline physical health all the way up to ultimate spiritual liberation. It's a massive claim. Okay, let's dive right into the numbers. 21,600. According to the text, that's the average number of breaths a human being takes every single day. Now, for most of us, these 21,600 respirations happen entirely without our conscious input. We don't even think about it. But Swara Yoga argues that leaving this massive biological rhythm to chance is a huge mistake. It suggests that our life force, or prana, is directly tethered to these breaths, and mastering them is the absolute key to unlocking extraordinary potential. So, here's our roadmap for unpacking this text today. We'll start with the basics of Swara Yoga, move into healing through swaras, check out the math of lifespan, explore some extraordinary feats, and wrap up with the inner rivers. All right, part 1, the basics of Swara Yoga. The foundational rule of Swara Yoga is actually pretty straightforward. It claims that simply changing your breath helps maintain perfect health. The text advises inhaling deeply to fill the lungs, holding it just briefly, and then exhaling slowly to purify the respiratory system. The absolute golden rule here is that the flow of breath has to remain completely unbroken. To get this baseline health, the text outlines really specific exercises, like Shitali Kumbhaka. The instructions are fascinatingly precise. You sit cross-legged, ideally facing a direct flow of fresh air. Then, you purse your lips forward, kind of like you're about to whistle, but you keep your mouth closed and draw a deep breath in through your nostrils. The source claims this specific practice purifies the blood and even helps your spleen. You're supposed to do it 3 times a day, but, and this is important, for no more than 10 minutes at a time. Moving on to part 2, healing through swaras. Now, the text goes way beyond just daily maintenance. It outlines an incredibly detailed system where your left and right nostrils are treated as totally distinct energy channels that you can manually toggle to cure specific ailments. It divides the breath into the left swara, associated with the moon or Ida, and the right swara, associated with the sun or Surya. It claims that if you're suffering from stomach issues like cholera or dysentery, or even if you're just experiencing general misfortune, you'll find your left swara is naturally active. The prescribed cure? Manually switch your breathing to the right nostril. On the flip side, the right swara is said to be amazing for digestion. The text notes that eating sweets, fruits, and grains digests way faster when you're breathing through the right nostril, though it casually mentions your sense of smell drops during this state. It even recommends using a clean cotton swab to physically block one nostril to force the inactive one to kick in. It's an ancient, slightly uncomfortable, but highly practical life hack. And it's not all just breathing either. Alongside those techniques, the text throws in physical movements that honestly sound a lot like modern stretching routines. For instance, to cure constipation and fire up your digestion, it tells you to stand perfectly straight, extend your arms out to shoulder level, and bend your torso left and right in a semicircular motion. It's a super practical piece of physical advice dropped right in the middle of all these esoteric breathing rules. Which brings us to part 3, the math of lifespan. Now, this is where things get super fascinating and maybe a little controversial. The text suggests that your lifespan isn't just predetermined by fate or genetics, it's mechanically tied to the physical length of the air you exhale. It literally measures the force and length of a breath using fingers or angles, meaning how many fingers widths away from your nose can you feel the exhaled air. A normal rusting breath pushes air out about 8 to 12 fingers away. But listen to how specific activities change this. Singing pushes it to 16 fingers, sleeping extends it to 24 fingers, and physical intercourse pushes it to a whopping 30 fingers or more. The text argues that any activity that dramatically lengthens your breath depletes your life force and actually accelerates aging. But through deep, controlled breathing practices like pranayama, a yogi can supposedly reduce that exhaled breath down to just 3 or 4 fingers, radically extending their life in the process. This whole philosophy is beautifully summed up in a traditional proverb quoted right in the text, Jublao Shwansa, Tublao Asha, which translates to, as long as there is breath, there is hope. Think about it. If every single breath is a withdrawal from a finite bank account of life force, it completely makes sense why these yogis treated their breath like a precious treasury, doing absolutely everything they could to conserve it. All right, part 4, extraordinary feats. Up until now, we've mostly looked at practical health tips and lifestyle advice, but this intense conservation of breath leads directly into historical claims and rituals that really push the boundaries of reality. The text uses some wild historical anecdotes to back up its mystical claims. It cites the story of a yogi named Haridas Sadhu during the era of Maharaja Ranjit Singh. According to the text, this guy had so mastered the art of hoarding his breath treasury that he was sealed inside a wooden box, buried underground for 40 days, and reportedly found completely alive when they finally dug him up. The text doesn't present this as magic, by the way. It presents it as the ultimate biological, logical conclusion of Swara Yoga, effectively pressing pause on death by pressing pause on the breath. The text also claims the breath has massive outward power, like putting out a literal house fire. The instructions for this ritual are unbelievably specific. You have to stand directly facing the flames, forcefully inhale through whichever nostril happens to be active at that moment, drink exactly 7 drops of water, recite a specific protective mantra, and then blow on the fire. The claim is that this esoteric combo of focused breath, water, and sound will miraculously quench the flames. Now, we're just impartially reporting what the text says here, so please stick to real fire extinguishers at home, but it really highlights just how much raw power the authors believed was hiding inside human respiration. Finally, part 5, the inner rivers. So, for all this talk about physical health, curing diseases, and putting out fires, the ultimate goal of Swara Yoga isn't actually of this world at all. Physical breath control is just a stepping stone to a profound spiritual awakening. To wrap our heads around this, we have to look at the spiritual anatomy described in the text, specifically something called the Triveni, or the Ajna chakra. This is defined as an energetic confluence point located right between your eyebrows. It's the exact spot where the body's 3 primary energetic pathways intersect. The text has immense reverence for anyone who masters this internal intersection. It explicitly says that a Swara yogi who gets this is to be worshipped in the mortal realm just like the sun is worshipped, or like the sacred Om is worshipped in the Vedas. And this builds into what I think is an absolutely stunning geographical metaphor. The text maps the physical rivers and holy cities of India directly onto the human face and respiratory system. It's like a cosmic puzzle. The left energy channel, the Ida, is equated to the sacred river Ganga, geographically represented by the Varuna River. The right channel, Pingala, is the Yamuna, represented by the Asi River. And the central channel, Sushumna, is the hidden river Saraswati. And where do they all meet? Right at that Ajna chakra between the eyebrows, which the text metaphorically maps as the holy city of Varanasi, the seat of the divine. The idea is that the entire cosmos and the holiest of pilgrimages are located right there inside your own head. Because of this incredible internal map, the text arrives at its ultimate philosophical stance. It boldly claims that people can spend hundreds of rupees traveling all over the country for physical, external pilgrimages to holy rivers, but without taking an inner bath at this internal spiritual triveni, which you only achieve through mastering your breath, true liberation is simply impossible. Salvation, according to this ancient text, isn't a place you travel to, it's something you literally unlock from within, breath by breath. Well, we've definitely covered a lot of ground in this explainer today. We've gone from practical morning stretches to esoteric maps of cosmic rivers inside the human mind. The claims in this text span from the scientifically curious to the purely mystical. But even if you set aside the miracles and the myths for a second, the core philosophy of Swara Yoga offers a truly powerful shift in perspective. It challenges us to stop taking our most vital, life-sustaining action for granted. So I want to leave you with this final thought to reflect on. If your every breath really was a finite currency, a literal measure of your lifespan, how differently would you choose to spend it today?